Hello and welcome back. My name is Monique Josephine. We are here to summarize Hillbilly Elegy. We're on chapter 13 now, which means there's only two left. In this episode, I want to do a actual summary and not so much of a word for word type reading because I understand that with the way I read and how I'm not very smooth, it's a little difficult to listen to me read for such a long time. But essentially, in this chapter, what happens is JD meets Usha, who is his wife, the mother of his three children today. But this is in college. She is very helpful to him. He kind of refers to her as his spiritual guide. She's able to suggest the things that he would never know to do, like going to certain places and talking to the professors because it's like a tradition and how the school is set up. Also, where the best coffee shops are. And he just kind of goes on and on about what a great personality she has and how almost that he's like waiting for some kind of monster to be exposed, but she's essentially his perfect match in every way. Completely honest, beautiful, funny, tall, kind. And he kind of gushes over her and how, after getting to know her for a year, finding out that she's single, he told her he loved her on their first or second date, which goes against all social constructs of dating. But he pretty much just put his feelings out there so that they could be known, uh, which is just so precious to hear because you can almost feel like the butterflies that he had with her. And I can also sense the kind of stability and how level headed she probably felt to him. That had to be so calming to his nervous system just to experience a level person, giving feedback and all of that without these types of switches in their emotion. And then another thing happens where he talks about these banquets that he would have to attend, or you kind of were lucky to attend for hopefully a future employer. So you meet them all at these banquets, and Usha kind of guides him as far as how to operate in this country club type environment where everybody is elite. It stinks of money all over. One of my favorite references in this chapter is how he says, like, women twice his age are walking around with wine, asking if he wants a new glass or a refill. And finally, he caves and says, yeah, he'll have a white. And then she's like, oh, okay, would you like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chardonnay? And he's like, you're kidding me, right? Like, I thought just saying white would settle the matter completely. But here, now you've gone off with these two wild things. Like, I don't know what that is. So he says he picks Chardonnay because it was honestly just easier for him to say and remember, which I thought was hilarious. He talks about how it was kind of difficult to navigate the silverware on the table. And more importantly, what he goes into is the actual advantages to going to an Ivy League school, where in these technically interview banquets, what these people are looking for most importantly is like, are you a pleasure to be around? Can you fit in? Are you socially normal? And less about your actual qualifications. And I believe someone tells him, like, you're a Yale Law School graduate, which pretty much gets you through the first part of the interview. And then he realizes, like, wow, that's such a strong advantage. Like, the people who graduate from Yale do have a completely different experience as far as they've all already got a job guaranteed. Whereas you'll remember his friend from DC, his friend's friend who was bussing tables in Washington, D.C., like, she got the only job that she could get as far as that went. So I thought that was very interesting because he's coming to this understanding of the different advantages his education is bringing, and also knowing how capable people who are going to any of these law schools are. And I think he makes a clear distinction that he knows the people who go to the other law schools could certainly perform well at Yale, but they do miss out on this almost guaranteed upward trajectory from an Ivy League education. And he also talks about there's like different opportunities at the school where I think it's like if you wanted to be on the Yale paper as an editor is essential for some certain roles. If you want to clerk for a Supreme Court justice, that's an important thing to do. But he had no idea. All he heard was like, okay, so some jobs will prefer that you were the editor of the Yale paper. Other jobs, it won't matter. But he's like, what jobs are what? I have no clear idea what I'm going to do. And I sure don't know whether or not I'm going to need to be the editor of the Yale paper. So he talks about a professor who he said he depended on a lot for guidance, and that she was kind of able to identify hey, if you're going to be clerking for a Supreme Court justice, you want to do it. If you're not, then you don't. And if you don't know what you're going to do, it's probably a good idea to apply, because it's definitely not going to hurt your resume. So he did apply, but he recognizes that advantage of that type of guidance. And a lot of the students at Yale already have that guidance within their homes, with their parents, with their teachers, where he's kind of like just like feeling around for like what do I do, which direction do I go. And that's another advantage that he's like, okay, that's a huge advantage, is just the information gap that without that professor taking the time to break down to him, he just would not know. It would be a confusion that he would have to just like do guesswork to try to figure out. And I think that's a clear benefit in every aspect of life. Like, if you don't have a wise person that you can count on who has done it before, it's like you're paving the road for the first time when you honestly do not have to. Like, you're not the first person that's ever done it. So why pave a road? Like, why not just have some kind of support ahead of you that can help guide you? You don't have to follow everything step by step, but just the advice and knowing that if you choose to take the road less traveled, what could possibly be ahead of you. It's a huge advantage. So that's made very clear in this chapter, chapter 13. To end this chapter, I'm just going to read the last little paragraph of JD referencing his mama. Mama always resented the hillbilly stereotype, the idea that our people were a bunch of sobbering morons. But the fact is that I was remarkably ignorant of how to get ahead. Not knowing things that many others do often has serious economic consequences. It cost me a job in college. Apparently, Marine Corps combat boots and khaki pants aren't proper interview attire, and could have cost me a lot more in law school if I hadn't had a few people helping me every step of the way. And there he's really recognizing, like, yeah, it's a stereotype, but there's some truth to it because obviously, I was very ignorant when it came to the expectations of attending this school and getting the types of jobs that would be available to me after that. This is a really good chapter. You can feel that it's coming to a close. But what I appreciate most about this book is how it's written, and it's first person. You can tell there is some sense of he cares what people thinks, but I think more in the sense of protecting the people that he loves, not necessarily himself, because he does reveal some pretty embarrassing things in this memoir. So I really appreciate that he's truly reflected on his past, and what that reflection has revealed are the things that he can learn from, the struggles that he's overcome, like, the way that he argues, the way that he's combative, how that doesn't help you in the real world. It might help you in Kentucky, but at Yale, you can't really just beat someone up if you don't like what they say. I will say that Trump just had his address, his joint address to Congress, I believe, which it's like kind of a State of the Union. And one of the senators, a Democratic Senator Green, kind of was like waving his cane at Trump, just disturbing the whole event. And the way that JD kind of like stood up in a defensive posture behind Trump was heartwarming, because you can still see that hillbilly in him, like, man, don't come over here with all that. Like, we gets down on this side, so please do not challenge us. I thought it was kind of heartwarming to see how he responded in that way. Well, that is all I have for chapter 13. I hope that you enjoyed this more summarized version of our book club and Hillbilly Elegy. So stay tuned for more. My schedule is posting videos Tuesday and Thursday every week. And I am going to integrate a news roundup, but I haven't quite got all the logistics of that figured out. So stay tuned for that. And thank you again so much for spending your time with me. I know how valuable time is, and I appreciate every person who's even taken a glance or spent a minute with me. It truly does mean the world. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and ciao for now.